All right. I want to continue talking about homocysteine. Unlike cholesterol, which has never been shown to be definitively connected to cardiovascular disease, homocysteine has been many times, despite the fact that almost anyone who goes to a doctor with a history of heart disease is more than likely going to leave with a statin drug. We still do not know if statin drugs and cholesterol lowering is really a strategy that is going to have much of an impact on protecting the heart. If you've been listening to this program for any length of time, you know that like all disease, heart disease is a disease of the cell, whether it's the cells of the heart, the cells of the blood vessels, red blood cells, or even digestive system cells, or for that matter, cells of the kidney or cells of the liver or cells of the thyroid. In fact, any cell disease, any cell breakdown can ultimately show up as heart disease, and one of the most cell-toxic biochemicals that the body makes is homocysteine. Now, there's several effective ways, real good ways, to control homocysteine and protect the cells. One of the most effective involves the chemical nitric oxide, which is produced by arginine. We talked about arginine at length a couple of weeks ago, and as a precursor to nitric oxide and as a great source of nitrogen, which is essential for the health of heart muscle cells, arginine can be a very, very, very important heart nutrient, just as, if not more important, for protecting the heart than any toxic pharmaceutical drug, than any statin drug you could ever use. And as it turns out, caloric restriction can also be helpful for lowering homocysteine. We talk about caloric restriction all the time on this program, and it's one of the most important health strategies you could use, eating less calories. For many generations, the human biological system has been confronted with a biological and environmental problem that is 180 degrees opposite from the problem it confronts today. That is, namely, how to find and how to effectively store calories. For most of humanity's existence, food has been at a premium. That means that the body has learned to survive, in fact, it has learned how to thrive under conditions of nutritional deficiency, especially caloric deficiency. One of the most important anabolic building strategies you could ever do is intermittent fasting. In other words, building up involves eating less. Now, you got to make sure you're getting your nutrients. You got to make sure you're getting your nutrition, but what you want to be watching for is excess calories. It's called the CRAN diet, calorie restriction with adequate nutrition. As far as homocysteine goes, in this month's Journal of the Neurobiology of Aging, a study was published that shows that caloric restriction can improve several homocysteine-related markers of aging, and this should not be a surprise. Restricting calories, maintaining adequate nutrition while you're restricting calories is one of the most important, most powerful anti-aging strategies, and every single marker, including homocysteine, can be improved by intermittent fasting and caloric restriction. The hardest and the most energy-intensive process in the body involves digestion of foods. That means that energy that we could be spending on growth and repair and the anabolic process, the building process, is diverted to the digestive system as we intake calories. That's why I'm always talking about liquid nutrition, drinking nutrient-dense beverages, that are mostly water, that are low-calorie beverages like the Beyond Tangy Tangerine can be one of the most important and effective nutritional and health strategies you can ever use. Same with veggie juices. Easy on the beet and the carrot, which are high in sugar. Use turnip and greens and kale and spinach and cucumber and celery. You want to be careful with peppers and tomatoes. Sometimes they can aggravate inflammatory conditions like arthritis. Use soups, bone soup, veggie soups. Get yourself a Vitamix. Make fresh soups. All of these are great ways to get lots of nutrients without a lot of calories. Another great way to improve elevations in homocysteine is to use betaine HCl, betaine hydrochloride. You'll find it in the Ultimate Enzymes from Longevity. Betaine HCl is made up of two components, a betaine component and an HCl component. HCl is an abbreviation for hydrochloric acid. Betaine HCl is made up of both betaine and hydrochloric acid, which is important for the digestive system. HCl deficiencies can cause burping and bloating and discomfort, malabsorption of nutrients. So betaine HCl will give you HCl for the digestive system, and it'll give you the betaine molecule, which can help lower homocysteine. You'll find that in the Ultimate Enzymes from Longevity. And then, of course, there's the B vitamins, especially vitamin B6 and folic acid and B12, and the B vitamin choline. All of these can be helpful for lowering homocysteine. Yesterday we talked about vitamin B12, how difficult vitamin B12 can be to absorb. Most deficiencies in vitamin B12 are based more in the complex biochemistry that's involved with getting B12 into your body, into your blood through the digestive system. B12 deficiency can show up as brain disorders, Parkinson's disease, memory disorders, intellectual confusion, problems with thinking clearly, nerve diseases, movement diseases, anemia, and elevated homocysteine. Elderly folks are especially prone to deficiencies because of the complexities involved in vitamin B12 absorption. You need to have an effective liver. You need to have an effective gallbladder because bile is important for vitamin B12 absorption. If you're dealing with somebody who's got their gallbladder removed or an older patient who's got liver issues, you are at much higher risk. A patient like this is much higher risk for vitamin B12 deficiency. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. We'll be back right after this with more good health information. Don't go away. Got a letter here from Lee who says he's just started taking the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. He feels great. His wife is 5 months pregnant, and they're prescribing prenatal vitamins for her. She wants to know if it's okay to take the BTT instead of the prenatals. A label says to consult a doctor before taking if you're pregnant. That is a kind of a legal disclaimer. It's not a big deal. I wouldn't necessarily take the BTT instead of the prenatals. And by the way, the BTT is not a multiple vitamin. It doesn't have everything you need and everything you need in the right amounts, but it's a great way to give your body a nice, steady state, low-level influx of nutrients throughout the day. You're still going to need to take a multiple vitamin, though. And if you're pregnant, you still want to take a prenatal vitamin. Prenatal vitamins are made with folic acid and other nutrients that are important for a developing fetus. So the BTT does not replace a multiple vitamin. It doesn't replace a prenatal vitamin, but it's a great way to saturate your tissues throughout the day with nutrients. So many times we snack on foods in the middle of the day because our body is craving nutrition. Our body isn't really craving calories, folks. It's a rare occasion when your body is in need of calories. For most of us, we got plenty of calories stored on our guts and on our butts and on our thighs and on our legs. But what we're really looking for is nutrition. And by drinking nutrients, whether it's soups or juices, or the Beyond Tangy Tangerine throughout the day, your body has the nutrients it needs, so it's not going to need to snack as much. And that's why people lose weight when they're on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. The BTT is not a weight loss product per se, but because it supplies you with nutrients, it gives your body all of these nutrients, over 115 different nutrients in this thing. Throughout the day, you'll feel less hungry, and that's how you lose weight. You don't want to be focusing on weight loss as a goal. You want to be focusing on health as a goal, and then the weight loss will come naturally. That's what the BTT does for you. Thanks for writing, Lee. Have your wife stay on the prenatals, but you can still use the BTT throughout the day. All right, continuing our talk on the importance of vitamin B12, the importance of all the B vitamins for lowering heart-toxic homocysteine. Vitamin B12 deficiency has been called the hidden epidemic because when you're deficient in vitamin B12, it can show up as almost any health crisis, especially neurological diseases, neurological pathologies, nerve issues, neuropathies, brain issues, heart issues, circulatory issues, blood issues, anemias, and elevated homocysteine. You need to have bile to absorb vitamin B12. If you've had a gallbladder removed and you have a problem storing bile, if you have a liver issue and you're not making biles effectively, and this is very, very common, you are at risk for lower vitamin B12, especially elderly folks who almost always are going to have digestive issues around bile or the gallbladder or the liver. Also, vitamin B12 requires a protein called intrinsic factor, or IF. Intrinsic factor is made in the upper part of the stomach. If you have gastritis or you have any stomach issues, you may not be making this intrinsic factor. And once again, elderly folks are at high risk. Digestive impairment of elderly folks is one of the most important health crises of our times. If your parent or your grandparent is dealing with any health challenge, whether it's a brain or nervous disorder or Alzheimer's disease, something as mild as forgetfulness or mild confusion, if your parent or grandparent is dealing with a circulatory problem, if they're dealing with a heart issue, please, 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 at least think about digestive wellness. If there's anything affecting the intestine or the stomach or the liver or the pancreas, especially if it's going on for a while, the odds of a vitamin deficiency, the odds of any nutritional deficiency, including and especially vitamin B12 deficiency, increases dramatically. Intrinsic factor is a protein that's made in the stomach. It attaches to vitamin B12 in the intestine, and then that vitamin B12 is absorbed into the blood. If there's autoimmune diseases, autoimmune issues, you can run into problems making intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is a protection molecule. It protects vitamin B12 from being destroyed by stomach acid. And speaking of stomach acid, B12 deficiency can also happen if you're not making enough stomach acid, a condition that's technically called hypochlorhydria. Hypo for low, chlorhydria for hydrochloric acid. Hypochlorhydria, low hydrochloric acid secretion out of the stomach is remarkably common. If you're dealing with gastritis or post-operative stomach condition, or God forbid if you've had part of your stomach removed, the likelihood of stomach acid deficiency is even greater. Stomach acid is really, really, really important stuff. In addition to helping break down food, especially protein, stomach acid also activates enzymes, which themselves are important for breaking down protein. Vitamin B12 is the only vitamin that can't be obtained from plants or sunlight. It's only made by bacteria that live in the ground or in the guts of animals. Algae and ocean microbes are also sources of vitamin B12, but mostly vitamin B12 is found in protein foods. Vegetarians would be well advised to supplement with vitamin B12 or eat lots of algae. Vitamin B12 is associated with animal protein. There's no B12 in vegetarian foods. If you're a vegetarian, please make sure you're getting your vitamin B12 from either plankton or algae kinds of foods or supplemental vitamin B12. If you don't have stomach acid or you have a stomach acid deficiency, you're going to have a problem digesting protein. You're going to have a problem releasing vitamin B12 from food. And your vitamin B12, this super important nutrient, is likely to remain unabsorbed. All of this is to say, people, that without stomach acid being produced in sufficient quantities, without bile acid being produced in sufficient quantities, without several important digestive mechanisms being functional, malnourishment in terms of vitamin B12 is a likely result. Vitamin B12 deficiency is a likely result if there are any digestive issues. And by the way, given this country's obsession with antacids, the number one best-selling drug, over-the-counter drug, and a best-selling prescription drug too, is an antacid drug. How ironic is the fact that 10 to 15% of the population is actually hypochlorhydric, and 50% of the over 60 population, people over 60 years of age, are not producing enough stomach acid. One of the reasons for this is the unfortunate fact that too little stomach acid, the symptoms of too little stomach acid actually mimic the symptoms of too much stomach acid. That's an interesting irony in terms of digestive health. All right, we'll cover that when we come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Our number is 866-582-9933. We'll be back right after this break. Don't go away. We're talking about, we've been talking about nutritional alternatives to nasty cardiovascular drugs, calcium channel blockers and beta blockers and diuretics, all the drugs that they give you for helping protect the heart, blood thinning drugs. And what I found over the last 30 years, almost 30 years since I first started going to pharmacy school, what I found is you don't need these kinds of drugs for taking care of your heart. Most heart issues, most circulatory issues are secondary to digestive problems and nutritional deficiencies in much the same way that almost all health issues are secondary to the digestive system and nutritional deficiencies. If you're interested in getting off your cardiovascular meds, there's wonderful nutritional alternatives. We've talked in the past about using vitamin E and CoQ10 and arginine and taurine, and in the future we'll be talking about vitamin C and magnesium and selenium. The last couple of days we've been talking about lowering homocysteine. Vitamin B12 is one of the most important nutritional supplements you could ever use for lowering homocysteine, but absorbing B12 out of the gut is somewhat complicated. You need to have intrinsic factor, you need to have a functioning bile system, you need to be producing stomach acid. Before we went to break, we were talking about how many Americans are actually deficient in stomach acid, hypochlorhydric, low stomach acid. And I find it very ironic that the best-selling drugs in this country are antacids when so many people are actually suffering from low stomach acid. If you're over 60 years old, your odds are 50-50 based on statistics for having conditions of for having a low stomach acid condition. One of the problems with low stomach acid symptoms is they tend to mimic the symptoms of too much stomach acid. And there's some very interesting biochemistry involved with that. If you have heartburn or if you have Gerd, don't assume that you're making too much stomach acid. If you have heartburn or Gerd, there's a very good possibility that you're not making enough stomach acid. And if you get yourself on Nexium, if you get yourself on a over-the-counter antacid, now you're further suppressing your acid, and this can have cause a lot of problems with nutrient absorption. It can cause problems with protein digestion. It can cause problems with utilization and absorption of vitamin B12, and that can cascade on downwards to almost any side effect or any toxicity that you can name. Vitamin B12 deficiency has been called the hidden epidemic for that reason. Deficiencies in vitamin B12 can masquerade as almost any symptom you can name, including cardiovascular symptoms. I'm going to talk about that mechanism, how it is that hypochlorhydria, low stomach acid, can actually have the same symptomology as too much stomach acid when we return on Monday. But we got a bunch of folks on the line. I want to get to as many phone calls as we can. Our number is 866-582-9933. Got one line open for you. We're going to go to Texas first and talk to Jesse. What is going on, Jesse?
What you do for us and for your show. I'm calling because I was diagnosed about a month ago with a blood clot in my left arm in a vein, and there was no obvious or apparent reason for the blood clot. So I've been put on, I did Lovenox for 6 days, shots in the stomach, and now I'm on warfarin.
I'm sorry, what did they first put you on? I didn't hear what you said.
It was a Lovenox.
Lovenox.
An injectable subcutaneous in my stomach that I did for 6 days, blood thinner, and then now I'm doing warfarin daily to keep my blood thin. And I guess I just kind of wanted to see if you had any ideas for alternatives to blood thinners and
lots. Now you're talking about Lovenox, I think, right?
Lovenox, yes.
Lovenox. Okay. How old are you? You sound young, Jesse.
I am 37.
Okay, well, you're too young to be dealing with blood clots. Let me tell you something about blood clots and these nasty drugs. First of all, the drugs that thin the blood are among the most poisonous and toxic of all prescription drugs. The reason is, when the body wants to clot the blood, it wants to clot the blood. And in order to keep that from happening, you have to put some serious toxicity, some serious poison into the body to shut down that clotting process. The blood clotting process is critical for the survival of an organism. If you start to play around with the blood clotting process, you can run into some major difficulties, and that's why blood thinning drugs are also rat poison. It's a great way to kill a rat. It's a great way to kill anything, to mess around with the blood clotting system. Let me say this again, because this is so mind-blowing to me as a pharmacist. The blood clotting drugs, warfarin, Plavix, Pradaxa, whatever it is, heparin, Lovenox, are among the deadliest of all prescription drugs because the body's clotting system is so tightly regulated. If the blood is clotting, if the body is making the blood clot, there's a reason for it, people. And to take a prescription drug to force that from happening is asinine and stupid. And I'm sorry if I'm getting a little upset, but it just makes me so mad to have people we trust to take care of our health, poisoning us with these nasty pharmaceutical compounds. So here's the deal. If your blood is clotting inappropriately, there's several mechanisms that you want to consider. One of the simplest things to do if you're concerned about blood clots is practice deep breathing techniques. I can't say that often enough. It is absolutely vital for the entire circulatory system to make sure you're oxygenating correctly. Secondly, if there's any digestive issues, if there's any underlying digestive crisis, your odds of suffering a blood clot go up greatly for several reasons. First of all, if you have any digestive issues running long-term, chronic digestive issues, eventually that toxicity is going to make it into your circulatory system. Once you get immune complexes, immune system cells, and activation of immune system cells into the circulatory system, the likelihood of blood clots goes up dramatically. So please understand the importance of correcting digestive symptomology. Please understand the importance of eliminating problem foods. Focus on digestive symptoms. When a food triggers a digestive symptom, that's a food that needs to be removed. Then make sure you're using digestive supplements. Probiotics are vital. Get on a good probiotic supplement, 80 to 100 billion units a day, multiple strains of bacteria. Use digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes not only are important for helping keep digestive intolerances at bay, but digestive enzymes can also act to thin the blood cells. There's a digestive enzyme called nattokinase, Nattokinase. It's actually not a digestive enzyme, but it's an enzyme that comes from natto. You can buy it at the health food store, and it's a great blood thinner. Bromelain and papain, which you'll find in the Ultimate Enzymes from Longevity, are also effective blood thinners. Vitamin E is such a good blood thinner that doctors will tell you not to take vitamin E after you've had surgery. Omega-3 essential fatty acids are not only very important for blood thinning, I should say omega-3 fatty acids are important for blood thinning, but omega-6 fatty acids are important for the cell membrane, the red blood cell membrane, and that can have a positive impact on keeping the blood flowing smoothly. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You're listening to The Bright Side. Hang tight, Jesse. I got a couple more ideas for you for blood clotting. Our number is 866-582-9933. You're listening to The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us, friends. Our number is 866-582-9933. We're talking to Jesse in Texas. You still there, buddy? Jess?
Still here.
Okay. Did you notice any digestive things going on in the past? Have you noticed anything?
Not anything in particular. I do, I'm not a religious taker, but I do take a lot of acidophilus and a lot of B12, vitamin E, vitamin C. I have a pretty regular regimen of vitamins that I take, so I'm guessing you take measures to
it's unusual for you to
going.
It's unusual for you to have a clotting problem at the age of 37. So something's percolating underneath there, and I would be regarding that as a red flag. Once blood starts to clot inappropriately, that can tumble out of control because obviously you're going to have slower circulation. That means slower nutrient delivery, slower detoxification, slower oxygenation of tissues. It could really cascade out of control. So it's something that you want to focus on, but the drugs aren't going to help you except for maybe as an emergency measure. So number one, if you don't notice any digestive problems, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have any. So focus closely on that. That's the first thing I would do. Practice your deep breathing techniques. Nutrients that can help thin the blood include digestive enzymes. We talked about nattokinase, which is an enzyme, although not a digestive enzyme. It's a good enzyme that's associated with blood thinning. Vitamin E is associated with blood thinning. Omega-3 fatty acids can help thin the blood. Omega-6 fatty acids don't necessarily thin the blood, but what they can do is they can help make red blood cells more healthier. Once red blood cells become out of shape, that can increase the likelihood of clots. So using omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Also, coenzyme Q10 can help keep that red blood cell membrane in the right shape. We haven't talked a lot about N-acetylcysteine. It's one of my all-time favorite nutritional supplements. It's great for the liver. It's great for folks who are dealing with drug toxicity. If you're on prescription drugs, it can help protect your liver. It's great for a hangover. It's great for people who are abusing alcohol. NAC is great for the lungs, but it also has an anti-clotting effect, and that might be something for you to think about. about 500 milligrams or so of NAC. And NAC works very effectively with arginine. It helps improve some of the anti-clotting effects associated with arginine. And arginine by itself is not directly an anti-clotting factor, but it can help open up blood vessels, and that can help improve the circulatory system too. So you've got wonderful nutritional alternatives. Last but not least, doing some exercise may help keep blood moving around effectively. You got great nutritional supplement alternatives and great nutritional or health strategies that can not only protect your circulatory system and not only reduce the likelihood of blood clots, but improve your overall health as well. There's no drug that can do that. And the drug that you're taking, warfarin, not only is not going to help improve your health, it more than likely is going to have a dramatically negative effect on your health if you stay on it long term. I'm sure you know that you have to have your liver and blood tested periodically when you're taking warfarin, if you're taking it for a long period of time. Thanks so much for calling, Jesse. I hope we helped you out. Our number is 866-582-9933. Let's go to Mary in Virginia. What is up?
Oh, hi, Ben. Thanks for taking my call.
What's going on?
Just to give you some quick background here, for about the past 8 years, I've had a pretty severe case of adrenal fatigue and all the wonderful things that go along with that. And I've been losing my hair. It's just been kind of shedding all over. Okay. And I thought it was because of stress that brought on the adrenal fatigue. But lately I've noticed that my scalp is itching and my face is itching. And so I did some research on the internet and came across this nasty little critter called Demodex.
Yeah, don't pay attention. Don't pay attention to Demodex, please. That's a bunch of silliness, and I've been in the skin. That's my main business, as you may know, is the skincare business, and we hear all about this Demodex mite. It's a little mite that lives in the skin, and people blame rosacea on the Demodex mite, and I've heard people blame alopecia on the Demodex mite. Listen, folks, 99% of people have Demodex mites. They're part of being alive. These Demodex mites, if you look at them under an electron microscope, they look pretty darn scary, but they're just part of life. They're part of our life. They live in our hair follicles. They eat our oils, our sebum, our fluids, our hormones, our fats. That's what they do. Everybody has them. It's not a cause of baldness. It's not a cause of skin problems. It's not a cause of rosacea. So I know what you're talking about, Mary, but here's the deal. If you have long-standing adrenal issues, eventually you're going to go into hypothyroidism. I would venture to say more than 50% of women over the age of 50 are dealing with hypothyroid issues, at least based on the evidence that I've seen in my pharmacy life, in my pharmacy career. So that's where you want to focus on. The reason it's so important to not pay attention to Demodex is because now you're ignoring your hypothyroid issues. Now let me ask you a couple questions, Mary, if you don't mind. All right? Ma'am, are you there?
Yes, Mary? I'm here.
Okay. Now, give me just the decade of life you're in without telling me how old you are.
Okay. I went
roughly
through about six years of...
No, ma'am. 40s, 50s, how old are you? In your 40s or 50s?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm 58.
Okay, good. All right. Now, are you noticing any signs of coldness in the extremities, or you already told me you had dry skin? You must have some digestive things going on, right?
Well,
you have to. You have to, Mary. You can't
I do.
that.
And I've been to several naturopaths, and they
forget naturopaths. No. We don't have to. We don't have time to talk about all the stuff that you've done. Here's the deal, my dear. If you have a long-standing adrenal issue, and by the way, the book that I was talking about yesterday, I forgot the name of the author, is James Wilson. The book is called Adrenal Fatigue. It's a great book for lay people. It's filled with cartoon kind of pictures that explain adrenal fatigue. If you're dealing with any adrenal issues, that's a great book to get. And James Wilson is considered one of the go-to guys in this whole adrenal fatigue issue. Over the course of time, when your adrenal glands are kicking in overtime, and that's chronic stress, and it doesn't have to be emotional stress or mental stress. It could be digestive distress or cardiovascular distress. It could be any kind of stress. It doesn't have to be just mental or psychological stress. But over the course of time, when your adrenal glands are cranking out this adrenal energy, which is jittery, hyperactive energy, the thyroid will compensate by slowing down. And this hypothyroidism that I'm talking about is near epidemic. Just like vitamin B12 deficiency is near epidemic, hypothyroidism is near epidemic as well. The thyroid regulates every cell in the body. I'm going to say that again because that's so important. The thyroid regulates every cell in the body. So once the thyroid slows down, Every single cell in the body can be potentially compromised. That means from a hypothyroid condition, from a low thyroid condition, everything's possible, including hair falling out, including skin problems, including digestive problems, including all cardiovascular problems, including blood clots too, by the way. So for somebody to tell you, and I don't know if you're telling yourself or somebody told you, that you got an issue with Demodex mites when you clearly have hyperadrenal, at least based on what you're telling me, and not focusing on the thyroid is putting, as my grandmother used to say, the emphasis on the wrong syllable. You're focusing on the wrong place. Focus on the adrenal glands. Focus on the digestive system. One of the simplest ways to work on your adrenal glands is deep breathing techniques. When you are low oxygen, which is very common, especially over time, we learn to constrict our breathing. When you're low oxygen over time, the adrenal glands perceive that as an emergency. It will clamp down on the blood vessels, and this is where hypertension comes from. When your adrenal glands are stressed for a long period of time, due to low oxygen, eventually the thyroid is going to be affected as well. So please practice deep breathing techniques for anybody who's dealing with any kind of adrenal issue. Secondly, there's great adrenal nutrients, and I'm focusing here, Mary, on the adrenal glands for you. All right, so there's wonderful adrenal nutrients. The B complex, including B12, is very important for adrenal health. Vitamin B5 is super important for the adrenal glands. Zinc, 50 milligrams a day, zinc picolinate for adrenal health. Vitamin C, 5 grams a day. Very important for the adrenal glands. Vitamin E, super important for the adrenal glands. 400 IU a day. Mixed tocopherols. Get on that Beyond Tangy Tangerine. Take it all day long. Sip on it all day long. Please correct any digestive issues. You can't tell me that there's no digestive issues if you have long-standing adrenal issues. And if your hair's coming out and you have thyroid issues, again, the thyroid regulates everything, so hypothyroidism is eventually going to cause digestive problems. Eliminate problem foods. Simply eliminating problem foods. If you've been eating grain or gluten, for example, for many years, if you're 58 and you've been eating grain and gluten, this is just an example, for 50 years or 55 years, of course it's going to show up eventually as adrenal stress, and of course that's going to end up slowing down the digestive system, further compromising digestion, messing up the thyroid. Focus on adrenal health. Focus on the digestive system. Eliminate problem foods. Use digestive enzymes. Use probiotics. And I'm sorry, that's all the time we have for today. If you were left on hold, please call me on Monday. We'll be back at you talking good health information. Stay tuned for Alex Jones next on most of these stations. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.